music going. You'll be hungry once we start making it. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. Come on in. I got the music going. So, welcome. So, hoping everybody had a fabulous evening. Everything's going great. Yeah.
You woke up the dog by clapping.
I woke up the dog by clapping, so I should.
He got scared.
So we have what do we have? What do we have this morning? We have the moon is in Libra, and we have the sun in Leo. So yeah, so it's kind of nice. It's sort of sweet kind of energy. We have people going crazy buying rice. So as I was mentioning the other day about India cutting back over cutting 40% of the world's rice exports, and so that's caused a big uproar with people going freaking out and buying rice. My advice, take it with a grain of salt. It's up to you. Don't go panic buying, and that's the whole thing. This thing gets you panic buying. It's just like with what's happening with Odessa right now, because that's where they were exporting uh grain, and the bombing of Odessa right now. So there's energies that are coming in that are saying, okay, don't panic about this. This is like, okay, be logical. All right, do I have rice right now? If I don't have rice, go out and buy a big bag of rice. Okay, accumulate it. Don't go crazy over it, because if you're going to go crazy over it, you're going to get into the stir crazy of the Neptunian energy, of that illusional energy. Okay, so know that, okay, you know what? I can go out and buy a bag of rice. Let me go get some flour. All right. This is what, this is what you need to start looking at. And this is what I've been, you know, explaining to people. Things, when you get in information like that, it takes a while for it to go through, right? All right. For it to go through all of the exports, imports coming into the country, packaging and all of that. So right now there is supply, but where you're going to be seeing that the dwindling or less than or not as much or the variety of will be coming into the fall. Okay, that's when you're going to be starting to see it. So right now it's like, okay, let me go do what I need to do, but I'm not going to panic buy. All right. Panic buying gets people into fighting over stupid shit. I don't know if you've ever, like here in Calgary, I lived in the Northeast for a while. And to the Northeast is sort of the blue collar area of Calgary. That's what we'll call it. But some people call it the hood. And if there was something that was on sale at one of the stores, like particularly like chicken or something like that, you had to either go there very early, as soon as they open, if you wanted to get on that sale, or because otherwise you're fighting over chicken. Like I do not, I will not fight over chicken. Um, so this is where you really can't panic buy, but people will panic buy, and a lot will be people from ethnic backgrounds who have just witnessed the lack, or just have you know of the lack, right? So their mind is already in the stress mode, like they're in the fright or flight mode, which is where we don't want to go. That's not where we're going, not wanting to go. So, but we got to pay attention. A lot is happening right now. And this could be too dramatic, too tough. This is a lot of energy that's coming in, and people will start to freak out. And so you're going to start seeing the freakouts. And especially, where more information is coming in about um with Belarus and I just call them, it's Putin's dogs are on the border of Belarus, and and this is where Belarus and Poland, um it's where it's like, okay, there's things that are happening, things that are in motion. We know that. this is, extremely important that there's so many different ways that are happening at this time, where we do need to take action, where do we do need to take action, and where we need to back off. And we really have to find that balance. It's so important to find that balance. Many people are in shell shock still from the escapades that have happened in the last few years, and those escapades that have caused a lot of harm for many of us, right? So this is where we really have to honor our energies, honor what is going on. um this is, if you want to do any family lineage, this would be a fabulous time to start looking into your own family lineage. If you want to go on to ancestral.com, start digging things up, you might find some crazy things about your ancestors. I remember years ago I went for a tea leaf reading, um, to this she was just so lovely, and, cannot remember her name. Steve will probably remember her name, but, she was only about under 5 feet tall, and she had the hump on her back, and I went in for a tea leaf reading, and I hadn't had a tea leaf reading, and this is before I had kids, and hadn't had tea leaf readings for years, and there's a little bit of tension within my marriage at that time. And so I went to go, do you still do past life regressions? Yes, I do. I the she went in, she was looking at, and she says, "Oh my God, your history, your family is hilarious. Your ancestors were a hoot." And I started to like, what? She goes, "Yeah." She says, "You need to look more into your ancestral background." And that's when I started sort of really taking more of an interest, because my grandmother did tell me a lot of our history, a lot of things that that they went through or that happened, but I was quite young at the time. But in finding out some of the things, it's just it blows your mind. It blows your mind, the trials and tribulations the family had to go through in in for them to get there, for you to be here, right? So this is like, especially with Pluto retrograde in Capricorn, it's like looking at, okay, what, looking at those structures, finding that history, and sort of and acknowledging and honoring that history of the past, honoring those who've come before us. And this is really beautiful energy to do that, in order to bring that balance and understanding that you think that, oh, we're the only people that ever gone through this. Like when my grandmother came over from England to Canada, that was in 1919. My uncle Leo, no, it was my, yeah, was it Uncle Leo? Anyways, Uncle Jack told me how excited he was to see a banana. He never saw a banana before. He never knew what a banana was. Like, he saw this thing and he's like, "What is that?" And he said that mother, that's what he called my grandmother, was mother. Mother would dress us up in sailor suits, because that way, because they weren't the bottom of the deck, but they're in the medium part, the second class part of the deck. She said that way they would get a little bit more, because people would see that, oh, how cute they were dressed in little sailor suits. So my grandmother's quite, smart. And she, in crossing over, she would do different things for people. She would do mending, and plus she was pregnant with my father in 1919. But how she made that voyage with 5 children, pregnant with the 6th. Crazy. But when you find out that history, you find out, oh my God, what determination. Plus, there was no iPhone, no iPad. There was nothing like that to entertain those children. They had to figure out their entertainment, or the reading, or games. That's how they had to pass their time. So there was no finding out, oh, what's on TikTok, or what's the next YouTube video. There wasn't that. So they had to really discover their own entertainment. So fancy that, right? On a ship, where you had to be in a certain area. You couldn't just roam the ship wherever you wanted to roam. So this is like finding this information out. When you find out all that juiciness, finding out things about, for me, on my mother's side, my grandmother was a woman. In My mother was born in 24. She already had one, two sons before that. I think Frank and Ray, and then my mother, and then she had Jimmy, and then my mom was the youngest. Where the previous children were not my mother's father. And so for the 20s, and plus my grandmother wasn't married. She worked as a nurse, and she worked at other jobs, but she ran away from and moved to the big city, right? So you got to think that, and there was quite a year's difference. So between my mother and her eldest brothers and stuff, and just finding like where they lived in the tenement houses in Detroit, and all of this types of, thinking about it, because Detroit in the 1900s into the 20s and 30s was not exactly a fabulous place to be living, just to say. And then especially when prohibition came in. So my mother witnessed all of the things about gangsters and all of this types of things, especially where she lived. And it wasn't until her mother passed away before her ninth birthday that she discovered what 3 meals a day was, and what it was like to have family all around her and things like that. So, when you find these things out, it's just amazing. And, you know, just all of that history where, even with my great grandmother, and how she had to stand up to my great grandfather because he was an asshole and beat her and made her have birthed her, and have to have the children in the barn with the animals. Like, how horrific is that? No wonder my grandmother ran away, right? And then my great grandmother was a midwife and delivered babies. And she wasn't a very tall woman. She was a very short woman, to my understanding, but very tough, right? And really got my great grandfather, kicked out of the state of Michigan because of his cruelty under the act of, if you determine a woman to be a animal, then that animal has more rights than you. Then if I'm an animal, then I have the same rights as that animal. So he wasn't allowed to beat the animal, the woman. Crazy, crazy. But this is like, when we're looking at this energy, this is where, we can start to look into it, and then we can start to bring in, okay, I need to bring in those clear, healthy boundaries. That can only happen when we see the reality, both seeing clearly within our own selves, our shadows, our wounds, and clearly without seeing others and how they chose to act out right now. So this is where this energy is getting us to look into, you know to discover this part of ourselves, because that is within our DNA from our father and our mother, right? And just, sometimes to imagine things had to be pretty bad, for my grandmother to run away, for my great grandmother to stand up. This is where the shadow of Capricorn is, when we stay with something or someone out of an expectation, obligation, safety, security, and we keep staying with that relationships, obligations, beliefs, etc. And usually out of fear of the unknown. Pluto in Capricorn is exposing all the ways we are internalizing the shadow in the patriarchal system of enslavement, abuse, control, power over cruelty, and more. This is where this energy is coming up and getting us, and it's pointing over at Venus, who is retrograde, getting us into this state of suspension. So the state of suspension is there, and this is where we really have to identify from our heart, and not over emphasizing or under emphasizing. So this is, and falling into the illusions of Neptune there. This is coming into our high spiritual self. Like, if we think about all of these determinations from those who've gone before us, there had to be something, some energy that has led them to where they are, right? Had a great great grandmother who went to Oxford University, must have been one of the first women to attend. Exactly. Find out. right? Find out who that great woman was and her determination. Could you imagine? This is the thing. Okay, first of all, she had to wear certain clothes, right? So if it's your great great grandmother, think of the clothes that she would have had to wear to be walking in an Oxford University, walking into a classroom filled with men who believed, this is their belief at the time, that women had no rights, that women were property, women were left in wills, right? Just like the China. So this is where your great great grandmother, coming in saying, this is what I need. This is what I need. So if you think about it and think about, like she had to have a bustle, she had, the clothes that she wore, she had to have a corset. A woman wouldn't go around just, putting on a pair of pants and a shirt and walking into Oxford. She had to look somewhat appropriate in order to go in there, right? That power that she had, that determination, and it'd be interesting even to find out, oh, what was her birth date. Those are the things that, to look at the determination of these people who've come before us, and knowing that we have that within us as we are going through these great transformations within our own selves, within our own being. And this is where, there's kinks in the system, but there's beautiful places. And we got to understand that we're going to be trenching through right now, right? And in trenching through that, sometimes there's going to be doors opening, doors closing, and things happening so rapidly and so quickly. But we got to, it's it's like an animation of suspension that we're in, and we got to trust within our higher selves and have faith that we are being led, because this is a powerful yod, right? It's that feminine energy that's coming through that has been suspended. That energy that has been suspended, and Mars is going forth, and Mars is in Virgo, and trying to get us to say, okay, you got to stay here, you got to stay grounded, and look at the things that you need to get doing. Look at the things that need to get done. Look at what is happening today, not tomorrow, not the next day, what's going on right now. And catching yourself looking in so many different directions. You got to catch yourself. You're like, oh my God, I got this, oh, what about here? This is where we need to, where I said you got to take the action, but you got to learn to back off as well, and really trust in the transformations that are coming forth. It is another Harry Carey week. I got to say that this is where we are entering into a lot more heaviness, a lot more people going into panic mode. But this is where also the things that we have all been brought up to understand, this frequency, it goes back at least 5,000 years, and it can be internalized, and we do not realize we are operating out of it. And this is not about gender, as some women I know are more patriarchal than some men I know, but this is about a frequency that needs to be extracted out of all of us. It's a poison that keeps being passed through ancestral lines. So understanding that poison that has been passed on, or where sometimes within where we have been submitted, or because of belief systems, because of how we were told to act and be, and we're stepping out of that in order to step into a healthy, integrated, patriotic energy. And is seen with the archetype of the father, who protects, provides for the family and children. He teaches them independence and hard work. That's what the father does. And so, from a place of love, not cruelty or abuse, we need to reclaim that healthy patriarchal, extract that poison of the toxic patriarch, which can be energy that is in both men and women, but it is exclusively a father line energy. So when we look into the father line, look at the energies within the father line, where I come from a huge line of alcoholics and abusive men in my lineage. And this is where I say, no, I gotta move away from that. I gotta move away from that energy. I've got to come into a place that is healthy, that brings in where I need to teach my children or my grandchildren, right? So this is where we are standing with this truth and with this strength, right? And allowing ourselves to come in as we are moving into, you know, or moving from the new moon in Cancer, the lunation governing this cycle. It is a great time to explore our family lines, especially the mother line, the Cancer, the mother. And you may get some big reveals, which lead to big clearings of things that are within you, and empowerment, in the present that will serve you going forward. So I just feel like there's just a lot here we can start doing for our own selves and releasing a lot of the energies. And this goes for, the thing is, some people that I know who are adopted or who were raised by their grandmother, there's a karmic line there that was chosen, like you chose before you came here to go within that karmic energy. So even exploring that, because there's an energy there that you are attached to in some way. So even exploring, because a lot of people say, well, that's not my family, I was adopted, or I was raised by somebody else. Still look into that lineage, look into that energy, because there's a reason why you were there. There's a reason why you came in, to help to clear it, help to understand it, help to release it. Okay, because it's amazing when I do charts, like if I get family charts, and I look at the different family charts, there's such a similarity within all of the charts. There's a cohesiveness of a binding within them all, like a karmic binding that within them. And that's the same way within people who've been adopted. And you look at there's something there that drew you to go there, right? There's some kind of connection. And who even knows that somewhere way back, way back, you might have been a part of that family, and in some way something happened that got you to where you were, and then now you're re-hooking up into that family lineage. And it doesn't matter if you're black, white, yellow, purple, green, I don't give a fuck, but there's something there. There's something there, and it's so amazing. And this is a time for allowing ourselves to heal in our world at this time. So I'm going to pull some cards. Yes, I'm bringing out the Mother Wisdom deck, because we're still underneath this beautiful energy. Have my grandson sleeping over today, last night. Probably going to be asleep. It's just easier. We have him sleeping over right now because Olivia is on her own. And so with her getting up early to go to work, and there's no school right now, and I'm not working in a muggle job, I'm just doing my thing. This is where it's just easier for him to be with us, come over, and then she comes over in the evening, or she'll take him out to the park or do something, then come back. And he's quite fine with it all. And that's probably because Papa doesn't have him do any chores, where at home he has to do chores. And he's like, oh, Mommy, my mom makes me pick up the dog poo. Oh, and I have to empty the dishwasher. Oh, so traumatic. Oh, the tragedy of it all. So, I would take your grandmother's picture, your great-great-grandmother's picture. Managing to keep cool. It was cool this morning outside, and it looks like it's starting to heat up again. I can feel it. So, going outside a bit. Last night we went to the park. Today we are going to set up the Gorilla in the backyard. We have a Gorilla sprinkler. So we're going to set up this Gorilla sprinkler and have them run through it. So, and I'll just probably do a lot of work outside today. And just work on some of my classes, because we're doing the Dharma class, and we're going into day 3 of the Dharma class. So that's going to be a lot of fun tonight. Tonight, we're going to be exploring the astral charts and looking at people's astral charts in our class. So, and then we do a Kriya, and the Kriya right now is a beautiful Kriya. It is a Kriya that is a little bit intense, but it's you feel great afterwards. And there is modifications in all the yoga, because I am not a, you know, you started to say about the picture. What were you going to say? Set her up in a place of honor. Set her up in a place of honor, because it was through her determination to get you to where you are now. Set her up in a place of honor right now. Like, even if you have a few, other pictures of your grandmothers and stuff like that, that's for anybody. If you have pictures of your grandmothers, set them up on a little place of honor so that you have like a little altar for them. Light a candle, especially as Venus is retrograde, because as you know, with Venus retrograde, is going to give you that determination for things, right? And this is sort of a reminder of a lot of things that we have gone through. So our first one, Kuan Yin. So having compassion for oneself. Kuan Yin. I even have the Kuan Yin deck somewhere, but bring forth that energy of the Kuan Yin. Bring forth that compassionate, that loving, that energy, energy for yourself and for those around you. And as you're doing that, comes the Pythia, the intuition, following your intuition. Ooh, that's a beautiful card. Never had that card before. Although, as I said before, I haven't used this deck as much, but let's bring that. This card is about opening up what lies beyond your five senses, the intuition. She's a line of priestesses who were considered the oracle of Delphi and spoke on behalf of gods. Your intuition is the voice of divinity that resides within. Wow. So here we have this energy. She's from a lineage of Delphi. So bringing that lineage in and allowing for yourself to have the compassion and following that intuition so that you can get the clarity that you need upon your path, because in comes the intention. Mother Ming, what are you birthing? What are you bringing birth to? And it's even with this one here, it looks like, Kuan Yin is, there she is. She's hugging and bringing in that love of the earth. And here is similar pose of bringing that love into the earth. So having compassion for your earth walk, having compassion and following that intuition, which is going to really lead you to where you want to be. And this means the unseen power. The powers are at work in honoring that of the third eye by listening to your intuition rather than the reasons of voice. So this is where, when you can find that you can be all over the place, and that's your ego, scattering you all over the place, and you have to come back, you have to stop, and you have to come back into self, and take that moment. And when you do that, have humility, Having that humility means having that honor of yourself and not beating yourself up because your ego just went rampant on you, and you're just like, oh, okay, hold on. I'm human. I'm on an earth walk. I'm in the school of earth. So sometimes things are going to go a little crazy, but I got to come back, and I got to come back into that honoring of myself. So there you guys go. So take care of yourself. Have a blessed day. My sale is done. So prices are back to normal right now. But if you are still wanting a reading, definitely get a hold of me and we can book you in and look into either your astral chart, tarot readings, and get those all set up. So have a blessed one, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great day. And yeah, let's go feed the ducks. See you all.